In 1905, gold was discovered here in the Nevada desert, but it arrived at a moment when America was already moving on. The news spread quickly, promising opportunity to those still willing to chase the fading dream of gold. By then, the California gold rush was long finished, its fortune already claimed, its legends complete. Nevada's great boom towns were already declining, their explosive growth reduced to quiet ruins.
Still, hope arrived. Miners, dreamers, and gamblers chasing what might be the last chance.
They called the town Manhattan, believing a great future could rise from this remote desert. The gold was real, but it was limited, never enough to ignite another great rush.
Businesses opened with confidence, expecting crowds that never truly arrived. The town sat isolated, far from major railroads and growing cities.
America was changing. Industry, cities, and modern life were becoming the new frontier.
Manhattan's population grew, but never enough to sustain a lasting future. As the veins thinned, belief faded faster than the gold itself.
Families left first, searching for stability beyond the desert. Shops and saloons closed one by one, without ceremony or headlines. By the time the dust settled, Manhattan had quietly become a ghost town. Manhattan wasn't forgotten because it failed, but because it arrived too late.
Between 1850 and 1890, America entered the golden age of the gold rush, when the West felt limitless and full of promise.
Entire populations moved at once, leaving everything behind for a chance at sudden fortune.
Rivers, hills, and valleys became symbols of hope, where gold seemed close enough to touch.
Boom towns rose almost overnight, fueled by belief more than certainty.
At its peak, the gold rush reshaped the nation's imagination and its future.
But time moved forward, and the easy gold slowly disappeared. By the late 1800s, the Great Gold Rush era was already coming to an end.
And then came the new century, bringing new priorities.
When gold was discovered in Manhattan, Nevada, the moment had already passed.
Americans were no longer looking toward desert. They were moving toward cities.
Factories promised steady wages, stability, and a different kind of future.
Railroads connected the nation, making industry, not gold, the new engine of progress.
The remote desert no longer felt like opportunity. It felt like isolation.
Only a few dreamers were still willing to chase gold, where the world had already moved on. History had shifted, and timing mattered more than discovery.
Manhattan's story would be defined not by what it found, but by when it arrived.
For a brief moment, the promise of gold seemed to return to the desert once again.
Stories spread quickly, carried by words rather than by evidence.
They called it the next big strike, the chance that history might repeat itself. Thousands came, believing fortune still waited beneath the ground.
Manhattan quickly filled with people, energy, and expectation. Investors began to notice, seeing opportunity before certainty.
Money flowed in, chasing the belief that gold was still abundant.
Machinery followed, turning belief into infrastructure.
They dug deeper than earlier generations ever had.
Hope became stronger than doubt, even when evidence remained thin.
Early signs looked promising enough to keep the illusion alive. Reality didn't arrive immediately. It waited.
Warnings were ignored, drowned out by optimism and ambition. At its peak, the illusion felt almost real.
But the dream was fragile, and time was already working against it.
Almost overnight, Manhattan transformed from empty desert into a bustling boom town.
Banks opened their doors, signaling confidence in a future that seemed inevitable. Hotels rose quickly, ready to house the steady flow of newcomers. Saloons became the heart of the town, filled with noise, stories, and ambition. A newspaper followed, declaring Manhattan's arrival on the national stage. The streets filled with movement, energy, and belief.
Businesses multiplied, each one betting on growth that never slowed.
Money moved quickly, reinforcing the illusion of permanence.
Entertainment offered escape from hard labor and reinforced the sense of normal life. But everything was built on expectation rather than certainty. The foundations looked strong, but they depended entirely on gold.
There was no long-term plan, only faith that success would continue.
Manhattan was racing against time, even if no one noticed.
At its peak, Manhattan felt unstoppable.
But beneath the activity, its future was never truly secured.
The gold was real, shimmering like promise in the hands of those who dug it. Yet its quantity and quality could not... The ore was inconsistent, sometimes yielding small treasures, sometimes nothing at all. Extraction was costly, requiring effort, materials, and money that drained the town as quickly as hope. The profit was small compared to the promise, barely sustaining those who risked everything. Investors quickly learned that wealth was not guaranteed, and the illusion of endless gold was fading. Yet miners pressed on, driven by necessity, hope, and stubborn determination. The railroads ran past the region, connecting other towns, but Manhattan remained out of reach.
Those who arrived relied on wagons and trails, a slow and arduous journey for supplies and ore.
The isolation was stark. Manhattan's growth depended entirely on what could be carried by hand and horse.
Supplies arrived slowly, often too late to meet the town's ever-growing demands.
Mining operations were constrained. Extraction outpaced delivery and transport.
The town's early promise faltered as the missing rails prevented easy access to wealth.
Families faced daily struggles, as distance from railroads meant hardship in food, fuel, and comfort. Investors realized that without a railroad, profits would always be limited and uncertain.
Necessity forced the town to improvise, hauling ore by hand, horse, and cart. The desert proved relentless, reminding everyone that distance and timing could not be ignored. Without a rail connection, streets felt isolated, as if the town existed in a bubble apart from the nation. The cost of being bypassed was high. Wealth and opportunity flowed elsewhere. Hope lingered, but each day without rails dimmed the promise of prosperity.
Businesses and homes struggled, dependent on what could be transported by the slowest means.
Manhattan waited endlessly, a town with dreams but no rails to carry them forward. Costs had grown higher than profits, and the excitement that once fueled investment began to fade. Ledgers told a harsh story. The gold could not sustain the promises made to eager investors. Boards of companies debated, but one conclusion became clear: continuing was too risky. Companies began shutting down operations, leaving streets and shafts eerily quiet. Workers saw their livelihoods disappear as the flow of wages and work dried up.
Businesses that had thrived during the boom were forced to close, leaving town squares silent.
The town, once buzzing with hope, now felt the weight of despair.
Investors pulled back, abandoning ventures and leaving uncertainty in their wake.
The machinery, once the heartbeat of extraction, fell silent as ambition faded. The very places that promised wealth now stood abandoned, echoing the town's lost dreams. Families packed their lives, uncertainty forcing them to leave behind the comfort they had built. The desert began to reclaim its ground, slowly swallowing the evidence of human hope. The newspaper that chronicled the town's rise now sat silent, a reminder of faded excitement. Saloons and hotels, once full of laughter and life, were left eerily empty.
The town seemed to pause, trapped between ambition and abandonment.
Investors lost faith, and with them, Manhattan's fleeting dream, leaving a town destined to become a ghost.
The machinery strained under the weight of extraction, each day costing more than it returned.
There were moments of richness, fleeting glimpses that fueled dreams and prolonged the illusion. The quality of the ore was never reliable, and fortunes could vanish as quickly as they appeared. As the extraction cost mounted, the town itself began to feel the pressure of the mismatch between hope and reality.
Some mines were left half-dug, abandoned when hope could no longer justify the effort.
The desert silently reminded all that nature and timing could never be rushed. The town learned that gold alone could not secure the future. Timing was just as critical. The gold was real, but the timing was off, leaving dreams fragile and fleeting.